Well, there's plenty around to discuss, not just locally, but on the international front as well. So let's bring in the foreign editor at the Australian newspaper, Greg Sheridan. Greg, welcome. I want to start with the former Prime Minister Tony Abbotts' opinion piece today, if I may, about the increasingly perilous times we're facing and how the West has to confront them or, quite frankly, lose. You know, since the end of the Cold War, the West, particularly the United States, Greg, has been sitting pretty in relative prosperity despite conflicts in the Middle East. But we're now living in an age of new czars, empires, with Russia and China. How did we end up in this schmozzle?
Well, very valuable piece by Tony Abbott. I think the big problem is we've got very fat and lazy. We're making massive transfer payments to ourselves across all Western societies. We've completely run out of budget discipline. And because the Americans have provided international security to us so effectively, nobody is anymore making any serious effort. But in this country, we've had 15 years of shocking policy under Rudd, Gillard, Rudd, and then Abbott, Turnbull and Morrison, where we've produced almost no defence capabilities that could deter China or, you know, make it pay a price for any adventurism in our part of the world. So the main thing we have to do is very simple. We have to straight away stop wasting money on tanks and heavy armoured vehicles and all that rubbish and get lots and lots of missiles, lots and lots of drones, lots of submarines and follow an asymmetric military strategy which would impose a cost on China for tangling with us in our part of the world. And the fact that we haven't done that until now shows that we've just expect the Americans can do everything. And as Mr. Abbott argues, that's a dangerous presumption now.
Yeah, exactly. He says the world is too perilous to rely on the United States dominance anymore, especially in the Indo-Pacific, Greg.
That's right. I mean, you know, I think I love the Americans and I believe in the American alliance, and I think finally they will be reliable. But, you know, if the Americans lost in Taiwan and decided to just go back to America and forget about Asian security, they would still be basically secure. They wouldn't lose their homeland or anything. We, however, would be in desperate trouble. And, you know, the Americans may one day decide they have other things to do with their treasure than defend us. And we're a very wealthy nation, you know, 26 million of the richest people in the world. We could provide for our own defence if we decided to. I mean, Hezbollah, Islamic terrorist group in southern Lebanon, has 100,000 missiles. If Australia had 100,000 missiles in northern Australia, no one would come near us. But we have decided not to do that. Hezbollah can do it, the Australian government can't. While Hezbollah gets 100,000 missiles, we'll get another white paper or something like that.
Too right. Now, the Prime Minister went to Thursday Island today in the Torres Strait to discuss his proposed Indigenous voice, but he copped a somewhat frosty reception, we hear from locals and Indigenous leaders, who branded the PM a hypocrite for winding up the cashless welfare card. This is the key here, isn't it? The Indigenous voice is redundant when you have numerous Indigenous MPs in the House, while the measures that have proven effective are being abolished.
Yeah, that's right, Chris. So I think it is a bad mistake to abolish these measures, the cashless welfare card and the dry communities. And Aboriginal leaders are telling us that, Noel Pearson, but also Aboriginal women, Jacinta Price. They're saying, you know, so that you city-based white fellas can feel good about liberalising a conservative policy, we're going to be beaten to death and terrible domestic violence is going to be inflicted on women and kids. And I think that just shows the hypocrisy and lack of reality in most left-wing policy making. On the voice, my objection to it is not that it's redundant. If it could do any good, I'd be happy to have it, but I don't want it in the Constitution. I don't want anything in the Constitution which divides Australians on the basis of race. And if there's any good that the voice can do, well, Parliament could legislate for it tomorrow. I don't think its design is likely to do any good because the thing is you need to listen to local communities rather than national symbolic leaders. But I just don't want anything in the Constitution based on race.
Yeah, well said. Australian billionaire Twiggy Forrest is back in the news today about his self-proclaimed heroism in driving the first shipment of grain out of Ukraine after secretly travelling to Kyiv to meet, of course, with President Zelensky and take a few photos. Excuse my tone here, Greg, but what did you make of the story today? I thought it was massively self-serving.
Yeah, I never know how seriously to take any of this stuff that Twiggy Forrest does. His interventions in geopolitical matters like Australia-China relations are either embarrassingly silly or counterproductive. And there is a tremendous self-glorifying element to all the stuff he does. I mean, I shouldn't be so cynical about him. He's a fine philanthropist at the same time. I'm sure he's well motivated, but I just don't think he ever has a very big effect on anything.
A more suburban spat has emerged in Canberra as the Australian government seizes control of a prime Canberra location, which was allocated for a new Russian embassy, and Russia is not happy, Jan. Greg, I say bad luck.
Well, apparently they've had the land for 12 or 14 years and haven't done anything with it. And also, I think if you're invading your neighbour and murdering women and children and using state-sanctioned rape as a policy measure and, shelling innocent cities and so on, I don't think we necessarily want to welcome a bigger presence in Canberra. I mean, there are probably too many Russian diplomats in Australia already. They have many, many more diplomats here than we have in Russia, consulates and all the rest of it. So I think Canberra is perfectly entitled to do what it has done.
Just one final issue in the United States. Wyoming Congresswoman Liz Cheney losing her primary yesterday, a crushing defeat actually, to a candidate endorsed by her nemesis Donald Trump. Liz Cheney is now suggesting she may take a run for president in 2024. Have a listen.
I think that defeating him is going to require a broad and united front of Republicans, Democrats, and Independents. And that's what I intend to be part of. I will be doing whatever it takes to keep Donald Trump out of the Oval Office.
If she runs, does she stand a chance, Greg?
No, she doesn't stand a chance. I interviewed her dad a few times, Dick Cheney. I was a great admirer of Dick Cheney. Look, I think Liz Cheney is an admirable woman, and that Donald Trump will lead the Republican Party into failure and misery. I mean, if these midterm elections are a referendum on Joe Biden, the Republicans will win a vast majority. If they are a referendum on Donald Trump, the Republicans will probably lose. And all the candidates who Trump has endorsed and who have won their primaries for the Senate races and so on, half of them are fruitcakes. They believe in the weirdest things. They accept Trump's idiotic assertion that he really won the election, whereas he lost it by more than 7 million votes. I think the Democrats are not persecuting Trump now. I think they're doing everything they can to make him central to the political equation. They don't want to face Republicans like Liz Cheney, who would govern America well. And, she is really a profile in courage because she knew that taking on Trump would probably spell the end of her political career. But she did something which was not in her own interest because she thought it was in the American national interest. Well, I'd rather have a politician with that motivation than a crazy narcissist like Trump and his acolytes.
Full points to Liz Cheney. I'm with you. Greg Sheridan, thank you very much for your time.
Thanks so much, Chris. Great to talk to you.